Hello, it is great to have your company. This show is called Rugby Heaven. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're here for the first time, a warm welcome to you, and you will be in heaven because of the rugby we have seen in the opening 2 rounds of Super Rugby Pacific. But what about this for a back 3, hey?
Oh,
Matt Burke, Cameron Shepherd.
Berkey's about one of the only people I'll move to the wing for as well. I'll give Berkey the 15.
I was saying I'd be fullback and the two of you would be wingers.
It'd be don't pass it to him. Dummy.
Happy to be a decoy. Great to have you back, Berkey.
Yes.
2 weeks in a row. We had you week 1 here, and it's great to have you back. Geez, it's been a good opening 2 weeks of Super Rugby.
It's been solid, hasn't it? The tries that have been scored, the plays, some curveballs that have been thrown out there as well, which is always going to be in the mix for any Super Rugby. But I'm enjoying the way that the guys have gone around applying their trade. We're expecting the game to be bigger, stronger, faster, and I think it is this year. And there's some deliveries on some of the players there have been outstanding.
And there's a couple of Aussie sides sitting pretty at the top of the table after, let's be honest, 2 rounds. But hey, we'll take it.
Oh, you got to take it. You beat the Crusaders in Christchurch by 50 points. I know we'll get into it a little bit later on. What an incredible performance from the Brumbies over the weekend. And the Tars really starting to find a bit of rhythm. Has the bye come at the right time? That'll be an interesting thing to see as we move into round 4. They got the week off this week, but those 2 teams, Aussie teams, doing fantastic, Berkey.
Brumbies flying, and you talk about doing your job. How did you go on the weekend, Michael? How did you?
That's a good question.
How did you do your job?
Fine, mate.
Well, he might be young in the sense of how old he is age-wise, but in terms of what he's doing...
Here we go.
There's one.
Absolutely fantastic.
So this is
Hoots is pushing through.
This was a pre-recorded news cross for NBN News, and the timekeeper was sitting in the timekeeper's box at Allianz Stadium.
Are you sure it was the timekeeper? It wasn't the bloke on the harbour.
I actually think it was Morgan Turinui, if I'm perfectly honest. And that thing went off 7 times.
Oh, that's great. Did you get it right in the end?
We got it right in the end. Now we never got it wrong. We just stopped because the hooter kept interrupting.
What about the first one when you just pushed through? And
I was determined to push through, and Hoops was like, I can't deal with these conditions. He almost tossed his pen.
It's not in the contract.
125 tests for Wallabies. He can do what he wants.
That's right.
Look, we charge through. It's professionalism, isn't it? Much like what we've got on this show.
Yes.
And speaking of this show, huge episode coming the way of our faithful fans who are tuning in. Carter Gordon will make his debut for the Reds. He's named to make his first ever appearance for Queensland in Super Rugby. A grand final rematch this weekend. The Crusaders and the Chiefs. The Crusaders 0-2 to start the season. And, of course, we'll take a look back at a classic top 30 moment in Super Rugby history. Flying Brian. Oh, geez, I loved Brian. Brian Abana. He was amazing. But the Reds back in action after a bye from round 2. Carter Gordon named to make his debut for Queensland. And you know the Queenslanders in maroon, they'll be leaning on their DNA.
I represent all of Queensland. I represent my family. I have a lot of family in Brisbane who come to the games, so that's always in the back of my mind.
It's a great club. It's a great family club, and I'm really proud to be a Queensland Red.
Growing up in Queensland, it's always kind of been somewhere that I've held close to my heart.
I guess I represent, first and foremost Queensland, really, because that's who we represent.
I guess when you pull on the Reds jersey, you represent everyone in Queensland, all the supporters, the players who played before you.
I like to think of them and try to represent them as best I can.
But then it's so much bigger than that as well. Like all the players behind us in these jerseys behind me, everyone who's worn that maroon or red jersey.
Obviously, we go over 100 years of history. Not only obviously 30 years of Super Rugby, but a lot of history before that.
For me, I probably can't go past the 2011 era. James Horwell, Quade Cooper, Will Genia, Scott Higginbotham. When I think of those 4, I think of probably 4 Reds legends and people that had a really big influence on the club during their time and gave Reds some success.
Queensland has quite a rich history. Obviously won the Super Rugby in 2011, and that was a massive part of, I guess, we can look back and build from.
The Queensland Reds, Super Rugby champions.
I'd say the Reds' DNA, we like to be an attacking team.
Eaten up by Wilson.
We like to try and score points.
It's a terrific offload.
I feel like we're a team that's fast and skillful.
I like to think we have a good mix of attacking flair and enjoy doing the tough stuff.
I feel like we're an unpredictable side and we love throwing the ball around.
Oh, that is an absolute beauty!
We're a pretty physical team in defence.
A new crop of younger guys coming in and really stepping up and evolving on and off the field. And I think that's fantastic for the game and for this great club.
We've had a few years building together, and I really hope this team can go to that next level.
You know, we want to keep that fast footy, but we want to go out there and really keep the foot on the throat when we can.
I've got so much belief in every person in this squad. I think it's a very exciting year for us. It's that time for us to have that next step.
Yeah, the Queensland Reds back in action in round 3 and back home in front of their faithful at Suncorp Stadium. They had the bye in round 2. They'll take on the Highlanders on Friday night. You'll see that exclusively live on Stan Sport. Shep, you mentioned the bye and how it might affect the Waratahs. They've got that bye this weekend, and they're 2-0. The Reds lost their opening game to the Tars and then had a bye.
Yeah.
How do you think that affects going into this big clash at home against the Kiwi side, the Highlanders?
I think it's been good timing for the Reds, believe it or not.
Because of?
Return of injury. I think it gave Harry Wilson that extra week you want him back. I think there's no doubt the Reds look like they were really missing Tate McDermott in that first game against the Waratahs. They've had him so consistently for such a long period of time. They've admitted so many times he's such a big part of their ethos and just having that familiar face at 9 every time you run out there. It's been tough without him. Not that the people standing in his spot haven't been doing a great job, but they're recovering from that. The return of Wilson is really going to help add a little bit more of that consistency. Their back row back together, him and Fraser McWright. Returning to Suncorp, I think, has got to be noted as something big for them as well. They're going to be so excited to get out in front of their home fans. The big thing for me is their defence in that outside channel. You're coming up against a Highlanders team that have already shown they're absolutely outrageously good out there. Big finishes, fast, good with the ball. If they can't get that part of their game right, they could be in a long night on Friday.
It's interesting when you look about that trial form and everyone goes, no, you can't sort of say anything about that, but they struggled through the trials and then they struggled in that first game against the Waratahs, albeit physical battle to start with, and then they just sort of took away the oxygen, if you call it that. Getting at home just creates a little bit of comfort, being at home for a little while. And you're right, with those players coming back, and there's some big names coming back as well, it just makes the team look around and look left and go, I'm comfortable that side and I'm comfortable that side. Whereas the previous week, it could have been, wow, this is going to be a tough job today coming up against this team. So Reds, Highlanders, look, it's going to be a tough one, absolutely. I don't mind the Reds being at home, but watch out for the Highlanders.
You mentioned big names coming back. Carter Gordon, not necessarily coming back, I guess, technically, because he's never played for Queensland. He's played all of his Super Rugby previously with the Rebels, as we see there. But he's an experienced player that is coming back into this otherwise inexperienced, particularly halves pairing. How big of an impact do you think he makes, Shep?
It's probably
that was an interesting response,
wasn't it?
It's difficult
He's very much New South Wales, isn't he?
At this point, because you made some very valid points. Although we know a lot about Carter Gordon, yes, he was on the spring tour with the Wallabies. He hasn't spent much time in this group with the Queensland Reds. He hasn't even played for them before. He's also standing with a halfback he's probably never ever played with. I'd go on record saying that's probably right. The one good thing is he's had an extra week because of the bye to prep with them, so he's probably had a 10-day preparation, Berkey, instead of the normal 3 days that you would get, plus a captain's run. So I think he's going to have to adapt quickly on the weekend. But, Carter Gordon's a classy player. We've seen that. He moulded very effortlessly into the Wallabies when they went on the spring tour. So I think he'll be all right.
Berkey, what about the injection of class you get from Harry Wilson? Shep referenced him before. He's the Wallabies captain.
Sure.
And he's a Queensland stalwart now. What type of inclusion is him back in that side?
Well, I think for he and also Carter Gordon is don't overplay your hand this week. So get back in. The training wheels have come off. You can you can play an understated game. So don't try and do too much. The back row that the Reds have had and over a long period of time, they've got this really good interplay of passing. So they're happy to move the ball about. That's one of Kissy's sort of strengths that he's trying to push into this team. So at the same time, don't maybe push it too much. Just take a hit up, get the contact in, understand what it's like to play again in that physical game. Carter Gordon, ping the corner a couple of times. We don't see a great deal of kicking these days, but strategically he can just put so much pressure on the opposition. So underplay your role is my biggest key for those blokes.
And it'll be interesting to see how their bench fares as well. Dan McKellar was really happy with the way the Tars bench performed against the Queensland Reds. He thought that was the difference. The Reds this time around have got Kalani Thomas, who's a Wallaby scrum half coming off the bench, and Filippo Dalguni. So big injection from the bench. An interesting ad campaign happening in New Zealand at the moment, gentlemen, and it features Ethan de Groot of the Highlanders, who'll be packing down against the Reds. Did you know that wallabies introduced pest species in New Zealand? And Ethan de Groot is trying to help the some organisation of flora and fauna eradicate wallabies from New Zealand.
You know, there's so many Kiwis that have decided to come and live in Australia.
They're a pest here, mate. No,
They are a pest here in Australia.
Kia ora to all of our wonderful Kiwis.
That's where I was
Kiwi
going with it,
viewers. No, we love you.
So, yeah, we just wanted to return the favour by sending some Australians over there and hopefully...
How do they get in? You take
the Kiwis?
You take
it's a legal issue.
You take a piece of fruit over there, you get fined $500. So how are there wallabies just roaming around? It's great.
Wallabies are quite good swimmers, mate.
Are they really?
Well, kangaroos are, so I'm assuming wallabies are also too, just a little bit slower.
Yeah, just
on
the
I
crawl.
posed the question on Inside Line Plug yesterday that maybe it's just George Gregan in disguise.
Oh, could be.
Infiltrating, trying to get some intel to help us win back the Bledisloe.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
You won't be able to catch Griegs. But on a serious note, the Highlanders look pretty sharp in their first two games. They are 1-1. A game they lost in round 2 to the Chiefs. Definitely could have won that match. They beat the Crusaders in round 1 in a nail-biter. And we know, particularly in the back three, you referenced their strike power, Shep. Fullback Jacob Ratamatavuki-Neepkins and Caleb Tungutau on the wing. Superstars, ball in hand.
Yeah, and now the inclusion of Jonah Lowe, who's a fantastic finisher as well. They are. And this is the big issue for the Reds coming into this game on Friday night. If they can't shut these guys down, if they can't control that outside channel and make sure you're not giving them situations where they can manipulate in a one-on-one perspective, Berkey, that's the big thing. They're going to try and keep you narrow, and then when they go to the edge, they're just looking for a one-on-one. And once they beat you, someone then has to come over, help out their mate. All of a sudden, you're going to have a mismatch, and they put you away down the edges. They're extremely good at it. And it's going to be a difficult day for the Reds.
Well, you had it. I was chasing. Speed is everything. And when you look at those guys on the width there, it's not only getting the ball to the guys on the width there, but it's what they do with it at the same time. So it's afterburners and they just go. And you think you're in the right position to make a tackle, and then you just get caught out. If your feet get stuck in defence, and all of a sudden, blistering attack and speed just leaves you just grasping for air. So all of a sudden, you're right. If those Reds outfits are too tight in defence and they're giving it, especially when everyone's going up and in these days, if you go up and in and you don't get your man and the ball at the same time, life's going to be tough.
Just to that point as well, it's interesting, Berkey just made me think of it. That's the issue with a new 10 and 12 as well. We know Hunter Paisami can sometimes get quite planted in that position. You've now got Gordon inside that he's not used to defending with. Fluke's a lot better. He can manage. It's going to be a difficult task trying to know when to hold and when to drift there, because that's what they're trying to do. And, they've been good at it so far this year, the Highlanders.
The Queenslanders will be on Reds alert on Friday night against strike power from the Highlanders. Catch that game on Stan Sports. Saturday night, the high-flying Brumbies will take on the Blues from Canberra. Geez, aren't the men from the ACT going great at the moment? And possibly the greatest of them all right now is the number 8, Charlie Cale.
Almost away. Here's Cale ranging. No one in front of Charlie Cale, and you're never stopping an athlete like this.
Well, isn't that man in an absolute purple patch at the moment? After an injury-interrupted 2025, Charlie Cale has started 2026 in red-hot form, and it has kind of flown on to the rest of his teammates, Berkey and Shep, because the Brumbies 2-0, and that win over the Crusaders on Sunday was absolutely immense.
I take you back a week and a bit ago, and we were talking about with Justin Harrison. I referred him to the Pierre Spees. You remember we were playing against him, big frame, big body, really mobile, and they're using him well, the Brumbies at the moment. And it's if you're playing with that confidence, then you're able to do that. And then you've got guys like around there, Lonergan controlling the shots at 9 at Brumbyland, and you just say, hey, mate, give me the ball. And then it's the world's best feeling when you're going forward and you're just dominating, and then you can play your plays off that.
He is incredibly athletic, and we're blessed with some wonderful back rows in Australia. I think historically, but particularly in the game right now. But how does Bernie, the head coach, Stephen Larkham, Shep, just keep a lid on things at the moment? Because 2 really good wins to start 2026.
Look, knowing Bernie and knowing what they've been through over the last couple of years, I think that the players are actually going to be in a very clear mindset on what they've missed out on, making semis 2 years in a row and getting knocked out after having great seasons. So it's probably not going to be as hard as possible. This week against the Blues is going to be a real big wake up. If they don't come out and perform this weekend, they're going to crash down to earth very quickly. But I think in general, you've got to be stoked with the way you've started the year. It was a tough trip from Perth all the way over to beat the Crusaders in Christchurch. Now back to Canberra, 2 weeks in a row there, and then I think they go into Fiji after that. So, an interesting 3 weeks for the Brumbies. But I don't know about you, Berkey. What I've been so impressed about, and I saw a lot of it when the Wallabies were in their golden era, and that is where I feel Andy Muirhead has been really successful since moving to fullback, is in around the ruck. The Brumbies seem to be really challenging defensive lines very well. He's great in the outside channels, yes, but there was a couple of times against the Crusaders where he's getting balls off 9, he's getting an inside ball off 10. They're forcing teams to defend really tight in on the breakdown, and then once they compress that defensive line, that's when the space is opening up. And with people like Kale and the finishers they've got, they're creating so much space.
It doesn't matter what number you're wearing your back these days. You've got to be able to do a job, and we know that the guys talk about the guys talk about that that 1-3-3 setup about singles and pods, and you've got to be able to play your plays. You've got to be able to turn around and throw a ball and be confident that the person outside is going to be able to do the job of a winger, for example, and score the tries. I mean, as we spoke about before, Charlie Cale is definitely be able to do that. I said he could play 13 if there's injuries. He could play 13 at a pinch, I reckon. He'll do it really easy. But again, it's opportunity for someone like Muirhead as well. Obviously Tom Wright not there, and then all of a sudden you go. It doesn't matter if it's through injury, illness, good form, whatever, sliding doors moment, you take it. And he's excelled. He's just, really, again, enjoying his role. And obviously Bernie's fitting that role to the way he plays the game. And then there's the enthusiasm, all the rest of it that turns up and wanting to have a go.
Yeah.
And then that's just infectious when you got this team. But don't understate the 2 wins away from home. We always talk about winning your games at home and maybe snagging a couple on the run. They haven't snagged a couple on the run. They've done a real demolition job on both teams, Force and Crusaders.
You talk about people taking their opportunities. Andy Muirhead has done that. Charlie Cale getting to come back from injury has done that. Ryan Lonergan is a mainstay in this team, so he's not taken the chance to start for the first time. But in terms of leadership and guiding this team around without the likes of Alan Alatoa injured, Tom Wright injured, and then the departures of Ikitau, Tom Hooper, Noah Lolosio. This man, Berkey, has been outstanding, hasn't he?
I'm surprised that he didn't make his Wallaby debut earlier than
I think there's a lot of people surprised.
But hasn't it made a difference since he has?
Yeah.
Seems like a different player.
And I always talk about moments in time in a player's career where you realise that you belong, and I think he's realised now he belongs at that high level where he can control the game, he can pick and choose what he does, and they've got time and space on their side. I know we're talking generics, but when you're out there and when you have that time and space, it's the world's best game.
Yeah.
When you're under pressure, you're hating the world because you're just getting knocked back and knocked back. He's in that moment. He's in that place at the moment where he just goes, I can control the game. I can pull the strings. He kicks goals. That's another great positive for not only the Brumbies but also Australia
and a great
as well.
leader. Chats well. You hear him chatting constantly on the ref's mic
Mate,
all
be
game
quiet.
long. Tell you one last thing before we move on from this. Caden Pritchard has been outstanding.
Really good.
For the Brumbies
21 years old,
21,
13, really impressive.
Really not overawed by the situation at all. Some guys roll into Christchurch, you don't see him. He was everywhere. He's going to be one of the finds of the season. Mark my words.
Absolutely. On the other side of the equation on Saturday night in Canberra will be the Blues, who we know were incredibly impressive, particularly in the second half against the Force on the weekend just gone. Shep, you and I worked on the broadcast of that game. It felt like Stephen Perifetta was happy to just sit back and keep the Blues in touch for that first half when they didn't have the wind behind them. And then when they got the wind behind them in the second half, he just pulled the trigger and that side went gangbusters.
Absolutely spot on. And it was spoken about before the game. What I also got out of that is Bern Cotter was talking about this was the game plan. So you can see Perifetta is very coachable. He understands what the game plan is and he's willing to implement it. He's just so grateful to be out there in that Blues lineup. And look at the talent that he's got around him. He really doesn't need to overplay his head. He's got some of the biggest forwards in the comp and the most dynamic forwards in the comp that he can use, and he's got some of the best backs outside. it's going to be really interesting, I think, when Beauden Barrett returns, what the Blues are going to do in their setup with the team.
What do you do there, Berkey?
They're going to come up against the Brumbies outfit. They're going to be defending better. They got a lot of front foot ball then, which allows you to play. You can hold up, double pump, the whole deal. So, look, I would keep him Perifetta there at the moment, just because he's got the runs on the board for the first sort of little while.
Yeah.
Put Barrett at fullback, and then you've got.
But then where do you move Zahn Sullivan? Because he's been one of their best.
And you push him on the wing, and the winger goes to the bench, and the bench goes into his suit afterwards. But that's the beauty of what they've got. They've got players to be able to juggle over a season-long.
I think in the first instance, I might use Barrett as the Tars have been using Debrasini, and the Brumbies used Debrasini last year. Wait for the game to start and loosen up in that last 30 minutes. People are getting tired. Bring on Beauden Barrett to run around when there's a few extra holes. Like, what a finisher. And they've got a great bench already, the Blues. Cotter's spoken about using it as a squad, not just a 15. Maybe that's the option he goes with, particularly in the next couple of weeks as they're easing him back in.
The Brumbies hosting the Blues on Saturday night from Canberra. This weekend also features a rematch of last year's grand final coming up. We're going to preview that one for you.
It's just a metre away. They go wide. Stevenson! 2025 sees the Crusaders back where they've been so often the champions of Super Rugby.
2025 was the year of the Crusaders, champions yet again, but 2026 is starting with a very different picture, gentlemen. They are looking a bit gentle at the moment, the Crusaders. 0-2 to start 2026. Not the ideal campaign for a title defence. Can they get themselves back up in week 3, taking on the Chiefs, you think?
Shep?
Good. I was like, oh, awesome, Berkey's going to have something.
It's going to be hard, right?
Quickly, though, they could be 1-1. They got beaten on the bell by a 55-metre penalty goal from Cameron Millen from the Highlanders. Could have won that game.
55?
It was massive.
It was inside.
Wasn't it?
41.
40.
That's all
geez.
right.
No, it wasn't
just
inside.
extended. James Slipper scored 22.
I'm like that Homer meme where I'm just like creeping back into
me
the
up
head.
about my memory earlier, and now he's gonna cook me. Anyway, it was a long kick on the bell, 79th minute. So 1-1. It was a clutch kick, so they could have won that game.
Yes.
Last week was bizarre.
But they weren't that bad last week.
They weren't that bad, but they made 236 tackles. That's what really stood out to me, and that tells me that you're just on the back foot, and the Brumbies were just going, here, have some of this all game long. 236 tackles in modern rugby is humongous.
Yeah. And you talk about the effort levels. It takes it out of you. Like you're having to defend, but they're not. Also in your mind, you talk about so who you got, blah blah blah. And if the blokes are fatigued in the head, and then you get up and they just miss a beat for 1 second, and you've got guys who can run the ball, like we spoke about already, the Lonigans and the Muirheads type thing, and they made inroads, and he only needed to slide off one tackle, and there's not much cover. And I reckon that's what did it last week as well. Just that constant attack from the Brumbies was just huge. I reckon they'll get that this week against the Chiefs as well. And then knowing that, but then you got the flip side. Then knowing the history of what they do. They've been before when they've gone terrible, and then
they're known as being slow starters.
Slow starter. You don't want to be known as a slow starter. You want to get out of the blocks and win your games.
But they come good at the back end of the season. I think Taha Kamara coming back 2 years of some pretty major injuries. He had the really horrible heart issue in 2024, knee last year. He's going to take a little bit of time at fly half to get his rhythm back. Hotham as well at 9 has probably not started the year as good as he should. They're such a talented team. They're going to be fine.
One bloke who has been really good since coming back to Crusaders, Lester Fainga'anuku, who was great off the bench against the Brumbies on the weekend. He's an outstanding player, but to start him at 13 this weekend, does it make enough difference, Shep?
Well, I don't know if it is going to make that much of a difference purely because he's a good ball carrier. He's going to get you over the gain line, but where the Crusaders are going to really need to be better this weekend is in phase play. If you noticed, every time it got over 5 phases, which is so rare from them, they started to get very scrappy, and I think that's more of a leadership from their drivers rather than their carriers. He's brilliant. He's going to get them over the gain line.
Yeah.
But the Crusaders need to really improve their phase play around him.
But you can't stop that. Right? There's plays in games where he's gone left foot, and he's thinking, I've got this bloke, and he just keeps sliding past guys. Keep it simple, stupid. Just play a simple play to get him involved as much as you can to get across the advantage line. And as we saw then from that that Blues bit of vision with Perifetta before. If you're on the front foot, you can do anything. When you're on the back foot in defence and you're holding and you're just trying to stop the onslaught of the physicality, it is so difficult to then make that dominant tackle to change the course of the game. So I reckon it'll be used pretty well.
Yeah, it'll be a tough challenge up against the Chiefs, who have started the season 2-0 themselves, have been the bridesmaid the last 3 years running, losing the grand final 3 years on the trot. They are still without Damien McKenzie, who's out because of personal leave, because of the birth of his first child. Cortez Ratimer, starting 9, is also out because of the same reason. But they just don't seem to miss a beat. And this week they've got Simon Parker and your mate, Amoni Narawa, handshake handmate, Shep, into the starting 15. This is an incredible side. And they've also lost their coach in the off-season. Regeneration.
There's so much talent there. You know, Quinn Tupaea had a fantastic season last year, making his All Black debut as well. Leroy Carter, one of the finds of last season, has been brilliant for them. There's talent spread deep across that Chiefs squad. And yes, no D-Mac, but I think it's a good thing for the Chiefs because it's forcing, you know, someone like Josh Jacombe to step up and take leadership role and all these other guys that aren't going to have that bailout of having D-Mac around.
Well, that bailout is team squad, team mentality. Brumbies do it so well. You know, drop a player in, drop a player out, and then you fit the mould, you fit what they play. And obviously we're seeing this. The consistency shows that they can play. This team, this squad can play, and it's just a matter of obviously getting over the line, as you mentioned. What was it? You got to lose 3 to win 1. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think that's the old saying. You got to lose 3 to win 1.
That was the old saying. But yeah, I mean, they're a class outfit.
Yeah.
You know, speed, pace, precision. All of the things that you need to be able to play with.
And now you can add size as well. Wallace Satiti, All Black superstar, making his first appearance for the Chiefs in 2026. Off the bench, mind you, Shep.
Oh, mate, this guy's scary. Chiropractors get nervous when they see him running. Look at the size of him, and he moves like a freight train. He is going to add some huge firepower to the Chiefs, particularly off the bench. As we spoke about, those last 30, 20 minutes, Berkey, they're becoming so important in Super Rugby when teams start to get fatigued, and you think you're going to have him running at full speed down the middle of the park. That's going to be a sight to see.
A familiar face for Aussie rugby fans make his debut for the Chiefs this weekend. This man from Waratah, Lalakai Feketi, who is on the bench. He left Australian rugby probably on sour terms, but I think I'm happy for him that he's still in Super Rugby. Yep. And it's a big challenge. We know he is New Zealand eligible as well, so this could be the beginning of a new phase in his career.
True. And you remember he had that bad neck injury. There were concerns for him there, but he made a great recovery. Look, he's a dynamic player. You know, he's got great ball skills. He's got great ability to put other people through a hole. He's got that physicality that we've seen just a minute ago. You know, he fits into that squad if he gets his chance. Again, it's about underplaying your role to start with. You don't want to be too overzealous, if that's the word, and drop the ball and sort of be ahead of the play. Be calm, do your job, do it well, do it the next week, do it the next week, and do it the next week. And that's that consistency that he can bring.
The only place to catch every moment of the Chiefs and the Crusaders is on your home of rugby, Stan Sport. Sign up via the QR code and catch all of Super Rugby Pacific live or on demand. And that includes the Western Force taking on Moana Pasifika. Coming up, we're going to preview that game, and wouldn't it be great if we saw another bell-beating try like the one that Ben Donaldson scored in 2025.
We're going towards the final minute to find a winner.
Force need to go 70 metres down the other end.
We were down by 6, I think, 44-38. We knew we had to score a try and kick the conversion. They kind of put 14 in the front line, no one in the backfield because they knew we weren't going to kick the ball away. So we knew we had to hold possession, which we tend to pride ourselves on. We attack kind of from anywhere, so we knew we could score a try if we held possession for long enough. I think the only thing I heard was maybe Peachy or Potts, who were inside or outside me, calling for the ball as well. And then he was lucky enough to find a mismatch.
Tazano rips it to Donaldson. Donaldson slices his way through.
Like those moments are kind of blurry. You just, in the moment, there was no one in the backfield. There wasn't anyone to run around, and so I was lucky enough to get under the posts.
Donaldson! Under the posts!
And to make the kick easier for myself as well.
You've never, ever seen a finish like it!
And all the boys, you know, swarmed on me with the crowd. It was, you don't get many of those moments in your career, and just to get it was pretty cool. But then quickly I realised that I'd thrown the ball into the crowd and I needed the ball to kick the conversion, had 60 seconds. So I kind of pushed the boys off me and freaked out a little bit. Lucky enough, someone grabbed the ball and threw it to me, and yeah, lucky it was in front because I was pretty gassed at that point.
With a chance to go from hero to king, and he lands it! Force win!
Just to start the season off with a great win like that in the 84th minute, when you win a game like that, they're extra loud, get the fans on field afterwards as well. So the vibe was great. To start the season like that, a lot of the boys had family over here as well. So yeah, it was a good vibe.
One of the memorable moments from a huge season in 2025 from Ben Donaldson. 83rd minute that was that he scored the try. Just absolutely cut Moana to pieces over there in Perth in round one. And geez, wouldn't the Force love for him to do it again, but this time on the road against Moana in Pukekohe on Friday on Stan Sport. They're already 0-2, Shep. Your old mob, the Western Force. I'm going to start with you and put you under the blowtorch here. And now they're at the beginning of a 3-game trip along New Zealand. They could genuinely be 0-5 after this trip is concluded.
They could. And I think there's going to be some nervous people within that Western Force squad. You talk about the Chiefs, no DMAC, no Cordes Ratama. Winning's infectious for them. They can win. Unfortunately for the Force at the moment, losing has become a little bit of a habit for them. There were situations there against the Blues. They worked so hard to get themselves back in the game. That Ben Donaldson try, yes, maybe a little bit lucky, 50-50. He still scored it. They got 7 points. The very next kickoff, they don't claim it in the air, OK? It's a little bit windy. You still got to catch that. You've got to get on the attack. They had a chance to win the game. They're making mistakes in key areas of the game. They're not playing consistently for 80 minutes. We've heard all their players talk about it and their coaching staff. If they can't find a way to cut out those little errors in their game and improve their consistency over 80 minutes, it's going to be a long season for them.
And that's the fatigue we talk about. The fatigue from other teams putting so much pressure on you, and then all of a sudden when you get the ball and you think, I've got to try something, and your head is going faster than what your body wants to do, and you make a mistake and you turn over, and then they can't actually score a try. So that first game against the Brumbies a couple of weeks ago now, they had so much possession, so much authority up the field, and they weren't able to capitalise on that. I remember Bernie Larkin was talking about it and he said, we just needed to hold on and we would make our plays. Charlie Carl scores left-hand side, and all of a sudden they go in at 14 all thereabouts. So it's the understanding of being able to do the work, but also capitalise on getting some points. Justin Harris and I were spoken about it during that game. Do you take your 3 points? Do you just kick some and get some momentum, like get that points on the board and get that scoreboard ticking over? Because if you go down there, it can be a tough it's a long old trip, 3 weeks in New Zealand. And then if you don't get any points in games, it can be a tough game.
Playing at your own pace is exactly right. And I think that's what the Force have got to do. Try and get away from trying to compete with some of these big firepower teams and play their own brand. Ben Donaldson's a fantastic goal kicker. Take the 3 points. Keep ticking yourself over there. You know, one good news story for the Force this week is the return of Nick Dolly. Paenga Amosa has been good, but I think Dolly coming back in just adds a little bit more consistency in that front row. It's probably a little bit tighter. He's going to be better against Moana because we know it's going to be a really physical wrestling match between the forward pack. So, if there is some good news for the Force this week, I think the return of Dolly is actually one of them.
You just need some help, don't you? You need some help because these guys are putting in a good shift, and it's like tag team, someone else comes in and finishes off the game. As you were talking about before about the influence of the bench these days is so important. They're not reserves anymore. They're the finishers, as you say. And if you can increase the quality of your squad for someone like a Nick Dolly to come in, and obviously he's been missing the first couple of weeks, it just ticks the box, doesn't it, for a coach, that's for sure.
What about Darby Lancaster, who's set to make his Force debut in this match? The beekeeper, absolute wheels on him. Get him the ball in space, and he's a hard man to stop, Shep.
Yeah, he's a fantastic finisher. I think he'll be excited to get a run. The David Palu experiment on the wing didn't work. He did a couple of good things, but not enough. I still think Bailey Kunzel will be interesting to see as well, now that they've got Lancaster back, when Dylan Peach returns, how that reshuffles the back line. I think you might see Kunzel come back into the midfield. And I don't know what that ends up doing with Bridge and Stewart. Bridge has been fantastic, so I doubt they're going to remove him. Maybe Hamish Stewart might get moved and modified, brought to the bench. The one thing we know, though, getting more talent back on the field is a big thing for the Force. They need it. So Lancaster returning is a good one.
Absolutely. Darby Lancaster, if he was to streak at a match, would never get caught by the security guards. But I don't know if you noticed this from the weekend. This was us doing the broadcast from this studio, and we had this camera feed behind us, which you couldn't see on TV if you're watching at home. Yeah. But Gorg, in the middle of Shep interviewing
it was
Stephen
a very long-winded question.
Interviewing Stephen Perifetta, has spotted that a pitch invader got tackled by about 4 security guards.
So that's the kind of person Justin Harrison was. He didn't concentrate on games all that much. Like he drifted. You know, we talk about fatigue. He drifted in and out.
He was like a kid in a classroom here. He's like,
how excited he is.
He's like, oh, look. He was dead set raising his eyebrows to me. He's like, look behind you, Acco.
It's Streaker 2026, isn't it? Like they're fully clothed, right?
We'll streak, but we don't want to cause any inconvenience for the crowd.
Any memorable pitch invader moments spring to mind? I think there's a pretty notable one from a Bledisloe back in the early 2000s.
You know what? I cannot remember this one. Here he goes. There we go. See, he's nude, right? See, he's just done the full run.
That's proper streaking.
That's proper streaking.
Up through the quad as well. Up through the quad to the gymnasium.
Yeah. And there's 2 on there. I can't remember this.
Double streak.
And they stood right in front of Mertz when he was taking a
shot?
Andrew Mertens. Yeah.
Look at that.
Do you know what the funny thing was? Mertz had been out on the beers with them the night before, so he actually recognised them when they ran out there. Hey, Gary, Steve-O?
He's about to have a shot. That's great.
I know why you don't remember that streaking moment is because the only moment you remember from that game was kicking the winning penalty. The last time Australia won the penalty.
Surely. That's it. I still love those blokes $50 each, actually. That's okay.
Rugby Heaven and Stan Sport in general does not condone the act of streaking or pitch invading, so we hope there's none of that at Pukekohe. Tomorrow when the Force take on Moana. Moana, very disappointing, Berkey, in round 2. A big, heavy loss to the Hurricanes. But we saw in round 1 on the road in Fiji, and we've seen it throughout their existence in this competition, they can be so dangerous.
Well, they can play, and we know that they can play. And it's about that, again, it's about that cohesion that they have. You know, it's a newish franchise to Super Rugby Pacific. You know, they've been around for a long enough to be able to sort of create something these days. They're the masters of that unstructured play, as we know. But again, if you put pressure on them, they can falter. But at the same time, you're looking at this outfit going, this is going to be a tough couple of days, a tough couple of minutes for when you're playing Moana. So they'll get better. They'll learn from that.
It's certainly going to still be a very tough challenge for the Western Force over there in New Zealand. We just saw the Hurricanes in that footage taking on Moana in round 2. They're on the road this week. Our last game of round 3 of Super Rugby Pacific, taking on the Drua in Fiji. The Hurricanes, an absolute demolition of Moana last week. This is a big challenge for the Drua, who are 0-2.
Yeah.
That sums it up perfectly.
A little bit nervous for them. Probably the only thing that the Fijians would be happy about is that Brett Cameron's out, so Callum Harkin's going to have to move into 10. That's probably going to disjoint their back line slightly. I think, they've had issues. Harry Godfrey's probably the number 1 backup at 10. He did his ACL late last year. What do you say about the Hurricanes? They look so good the opening couple of weeks. They're so energetic. They've got so much talent across the park. They're interpassing between forwards and backs, and the way they just spread the field, it's going to be a long day for Fiji.
You talk about the competitive advantage when they were playing in Fiji against Fiji, and that's what it is. But if teams are starting to work that out, it then sort of negates that advantage type thing, you know what I mean? So it becomes a tough ask then when you're a home team and you're trying to use that as your little go-to. People are starting to work it out, you know, and you talked about it before, Shep. You've got to play your own game. Don't get caught up in playing a Fijian style. You stay with your game plan, and it should work in the end there.
The scary thing, just quickly, for the Hurricanes is they've still got so much talent to come back.
Yeah.
You think Brett Cameron will return. It's just a niggling knee. Ruben Love's going to return. You've got Kenny Naholo, arguably one of the best finishers in Super Rugby, still to come back as well. They're a big chance of winning it this year.
Absolutely.
Big chance.
One of the top sides in 2026. You mentioned Brett Cameron, Ruben Love. Those 2 guys out, which means Callum Harkin starts at 10, who you referenced, Shep. Berkey, interested to get your thoughts here. What do you make of that call when you know you've got someone like Geordie Barrett, who's not traditionally a 10, but certainly has the skill set to play there? If you need to plug a hole.
You could plug a hole. but you're taking a player out of their role to be able to substitute somewhere else, and that's where you can get caught out. His 12 role that he had, and his 12 role that he had, Barrett, that was overseas at Leicester. Was outstanding. And why would you take, or why would you even move a person around in that role? To fill a gap, I understand, but then you're just going to get so much more out of them when they play in their preferred position.
If Callum Harkin goes down, they're in trouble, and that might be what they have to do. But for the time being, I think Burke is right.
Just quickly on the Drua, 2 losses to start the season, 1 at home, 1 on the road. Back home, what needs to change for them?
Well, it's consistency, I think. Consistency. The difficult part about it is, and they have a travel schedule as well. The consistency to be able to put something on the park week in, week out, and then not falling any lower than a par performance. Teams like Moana, Fiji, if you can hang with them, then you should get over the top of them. If you don't and you let them get a bit of momentum going, that's when life's tough against these guys. They are chiselled out of concrete. And so, like, if you cop them, if you cop the hit, then you as you said before, Shep, you get the confidence and they rise, and then everyone rises from there. So you've got to shut it down pretty quick.
For me, it's the game plan. Lamani needs to do a better job of leading, but I just don't think they're kicking the ball well enough. Playing way too much rugby in bad parts of the field. And if they keep doing that, same as you said with the Brums, teams just defend well, they get patient, they wait for you to make a mistake and they hurt you. That's where Fiji's fallen short at the moment.
I reckon, if nothing else, this game will be absolutely entertaining. The Drua hosting the Hurricanes. That's Super Rugby Pacific Round 3 done. Coming up, we're going to get our tips from our experts here through the Round 3 fixtures. And, of course, we're taking a look at the top 30 moments from the history of Super Rugby. Here's another one.
He is brought down by a group of sharks just swarming around him. Adams, Hobart has nowhere to go. Brilliant tackle there. Now here goes Adams once again. Wide for Habana. Gets past one, gets to another. This could be it. This is it. Habana has scored. Have the Bulls pulled this out of the fire? They cannot believe it. The shot. There's a deathly hush around this park. Deliberate play to put him off his kicks, and it's over. It's over. It's 20 points to 19 to the Bulls. The game is over.
One of Super Rugby's finest, flying Brian Habana. Geez, he can score a try. That's one of our top 30 moments from the history of Super Rugby, and we'll continue to reveal the rest of those top 30 moments as well. And you know what else we're doing? We're revealing the Legends 15 from the history of Super Rugby. 3 decades of it. We know Wyatt Crockett's already been selected at loosehead prop. Well, just in the last week, Kevin Mialamu has been selected at hooker. Highly contentious. I think Jeremy Paul's been robbed, but that's just my subjective view. And now we turn our attention to the other bookend of the front row, the tight head prop. And there's a few very, very big names in the running for this. Couple of big name Aussies as well, and they're big people too. Teni Alatupo, Alan Alatoa, Sekope Kepu. There's others. Does anyone stand out for you in particular, Shep?
I love Nella. I've got a lot of time for him. Sekope Kepu in his prime was very good. Remember that try against the Chiefs? When was that? Mid-2010s. Oh, I think that really put him on a pedestal as someone that fit outside the regular mould as a...
He was selling dummies left, right and centre on that run to the line. And, you know, he's been nominated twice because all the players that go into the nomination for the Legends 15, the all-time 15, have come from the sides themselves, their own top 15 from their history of Super Rugby. So he's in as a nomination from Moana and from the Waratahs. So, yeah.
But my only thing is, I'll go Keps straight away for me. One is New South Wales. I can't believe we're having so much time talking about tight head props. Seriously. or a loose head prop. Mate, all they do is push, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they do.
Oh, I'm staying out of that debate. You know, all you front rows out there, you come hard at Matt Burke, all right? You come hard at Matt Burke.
Except for Keps. You're my man, mate.
Well, no, I think James Liu was hard done by missing out on loose head prop. So I would even nominate him to be selected at tight head, but he's not in there, so there you go.
Tight head.
Let's look at quickly tips for Super Rugby Pacific Round 3. Let's punch through these. Are super fast. Moana Pacifica versus Force, Shep?
Force have to win. I'm picking Force.
Moana. The travel will get the force, unfortunately.
The other Friday game, Reds, Highlanders, Berkey.
I'm going to go Highlanders in a sneaky one, unfortunately.
Ooh.
I think the Highlanders will win too.
That is blasphemy. Come on, Queensland. On Saturday, Fijian Drua versus the Hurricanes.
Hurricanes by a lot.
I think we spoke about that enough. Hurricanes, yes.
Big trouble, Fiji. Chiefs, Crusaders.
Chiefs to me, just too strong. The pack and confidence is just hovering, I reckon, for the Crusaders at the moment.
Crusaders for me. I think they need the win. They need the win, and they'll get up for this one.
Last game, Brumbies Blues, Saturday in Canberra.
Brumbies.
Yeah, Brumbies
surely
at home, on the run.
Can't win by 50 and then
That's
lose
galloping.
the opposite.
That's just galloping. That's the horses galloping. That's the stampede of the Brumbies. It's been wild. It's been wonderful here on Rugby Heaven. Massive weekend of Super Rugby Pacific is coming your way on your home of rugby, Stan Sport. Catch every moment live or on demand. And of course, on Monday, the boys from Between Two Posts will be back and they'll wrap up everything, every bit of rugby action from the weekend and round 3 of Super Rugby Pacific. Bye for now.